All right, welcome everyone to our podcast, the Elevated Podcast. I'm John. This is Drew, Donovan, and our guest Niko today. So today we're going to be interviewing Niko about his life, upbringings, experiences, and looking for those little nuggets that he has from his life to be able to share with us and to be able to share with other people.
Before we get to Niko, though, last episode was John's, and we wanted to. Before we started the podcast, we came up with a question that we want to ask every guest, and the question is, "What's the biggest thing that helped you elevate in your life?" And last time we did not ask that, so before we start with Niko, John, if you want to answer that, what is the biggest thing that helped you elevate in your life?
It has helped me elevate to where I'm at today. Honestly, the biggest thing for me is the gospel of Jesus Christ. If you know me, a lot of times I'm just always joking around, saying silly things, always trying to make people laugh or whatever. Or sometimes I'm just hella serious. But a big part of my life is the gospel of Jesus Christ. Honestly, I wouldn't be here today if I didn't have the teachings and principles. So I think that's something that really has helped me and continues to help me throughout my journey of valleys and peaks. All right, so Niko Davidson. He's a father, he's a husband, he's a son, he's a brother. Um, and honestly, he's a big role model to me. Grew up with Niko, honestly, my whole life. He's 2 months older than me, but we've been together since birth. Uh, so first and foremost, I want to thank you, Nick, for being here, taking the time out to sit with us and share your experiences. Um, I want you to know that we love you, and we care for you, and we appreciate you. So I've been thinking about that a lot this week, preparing and thinking of questions and all that. Like I just want to make sure you know, and all other guests know, like how much we love and care for you guys. So thank you, bro, for real.
Thank you for having me, bro.
Um, so let's start from the beginning. All right, where are you from? Born and raised.
From the beginning. Niko Davidson. Was born in San Francisco, California. Moved here in 2000 with my family. And been in West Valley most of my life. So, as far as where I'm from, it's West Valley. I'll tell that to anybody for a long time. I think even as a kid, I'm from California all the way up to about high school. And I'm like, this is where I'm at. I'm from here, bro. I'm definitely not from California. But yeah. Come from a family of nine kids. One son, loving wife, and a good band of brothers around me. That's about it for me right now. Let's do it for job purposes. I'm wearing my work uniform. None of my views are a reflection of Southwest Airlines. Let's just keep our jobs here, people. All right. These are all my opinions.
Yeah, I totally forgot about it.
But this keeps me warm. Shout out Southwest. Y'all give some good uniforms. But yeah, been in Salt Lake since 2000. Moved up to Kaysville for a little bit. Shout out to everybody up north. And yeah, now I'm here living in Rose Park. Me and my family, my in-laws. So.
You touched on that you're one of nine.
Yeah.
How was growing up with that many siblings?
Oof. I don't say oof in a bad way. Second oldest of nine. I'm the oldest boy. My oldest sister Shayna. After me is Terrence, Teddy, Nephi, Elias, Soraya, Matthias, Tali. And we're all out of high school. But growing up, it was an adventure. Let's just say that. A lot of activity, a lot of loud people, whether it be verbally or by the actions we were doing when we were finally doing chores. But no, it was good, man. There's definitely loads to learn when we're young. Always loads to learn even as we age. But yeah, man, growing up in a house of 9 is not for the weak. Let's just say that.
Does growing up in a family of 9, does it make you want to have like your own group of 9? Do you want a lot of kids like that, or what you think?
When I was younger, yeah, I used to be like, oh yeah, I want a big family. And you get a job. Yeah, it's a lot of mouths to feed. I think I'm cool with like 2 or 3, but not at this point in my life. Whatever blessings God has for me as far as children, for me and my wife, man, let them come. You know what I'm saying? But right now, I just got the one, and yeah, sometimes when I look at him, I'm like, dang, what if you had 9 siblings? That'd be crazy. Right now, there's nothing I guess wish for as far as having more kids. Just if it happens, it happens.
One thing I can speak true for my family, anyways, is the oldest are looked at as kind of like another parent. You being the oldest boy, did you ever feel added pressure to be an example to your younger siblings?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. It was even though I was definitely doing my own thing at times. You know what I'm saying? I guess that thought was always back there. People are watching me, like we said in past episodes. Growing up with that feeling, there was definitely like pressures. Every time I messed up or felt I was messing up, it was like, dang, not just for myself, but for these other 7 younger kids who are watching me like, okay. But I mean, it's the same in reverse for like any triumphs or victories for myself. Because it was,
I love that.
even in the good times or any accomplishments I made, it wasn't ever totally about me. Like I always felt good because I'm doing good by them, or good for them, or at least got a good light shining on me. Kind of reflect that too. Yeah.
So I asked some of our audience members for some questions or feedback or things like that. A lot of people knew you were our next guest, so I asked them, "What would you want to ask Niko if you were here?" And so one of the questions was, and this person said, "Don't be biased because obviously we're all men." She asked, "Do you feel like as a poly male, like you said, you're the second oldest, Shayna's the first oldest. Do you feel like um, your parents were a little bit more lenient with you because you're a boy, and do you feel like girls are parents, especially with older girls, are more like restrictive?
Mm.
Do you feel like you got away with more than what Sheena has?"
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll say yeah. I think in the Polynesian culture, like you're talking about, especially for Samoans, I can't speak for the other islands, but as far as what I knew growing up with our family, it did seem like the girls were more closely watched.
Mm.
And for me, it's kind of like rightfully so. You know, they're girls, but like you gotta, as young boys, we're taught protect our sisters. Watch out for the girls. For the boys, it's just kind of don't get hurt or don't cry. But no, definitely, I think there's added pressures on the girls, and not just girls in general, but yeah, for my sister being the oldest girl. Yeah.
Like that, I like that. So like Do you, because we all have sisters, right?
Yeah.
Do you guys feel the same way, or? Because I'll be honest, I don't.
I'm with you because I don't either.
I don't,
Yeah.
dude. But I think it's because I'm the oldest, like out of the family. But I don't know, because V, I got my little sister V. I felt like she could do whatever she wanted. I felt like I was under a scope all the time. It's like, oh, you want this, you want McDonald's, you want whatever, you want shoes, you want. I was like, damn. Can I get some shoes? Can I get McDonald's?
Well, I'll speak on it because you two are the oldest. Niko's one of the oldest. I'm the baby. So definitely looking back, man, I was spoiled. And like, I got away with a lot. I'm not saying I did a lot, but my parents were really less strict with me than my older siblings. I don't know if it was either because I was a boy. I'm pretty sure that played a big role, but I know a lot of it was because I was a baby. I was the baby of the family. Even going out with my brothers and sisters, there's times where like, man, mom and dad will never let me come out this late. I don't know how you're with us right now. I don't know either. But yeah, so from the baby's perspective, yes, the baby gets spoiled. And I don't know if it's because, for me, what I feel like is parents with their oldest, they're kind of trial and error phase. Like they don't know what it is to be a good parent, not good parent, but like what works for them. And they're still trying to figure that out. By the time you're a baby, they got it. If you're especially a sibling of 9, they got it down like a well-oiled machine. So I think that's by the time I was a kid, my parents were too old to want to beat me. I wasn't born at the time where they were still hitting that much, and so that's one thing my siblings always say: "You never got beat. You never got beat." Also, was a pretty good kid. But yeah, that's what I think. I think parents with their oldest, they're kind of still trial and error phase, and by the time they have the youngest, they're kind of working off of their experience that they already have.
Yeah, I like that because I actually had that conversation with my mom before I left on my mission. We were talking one night, and she was like, "Thank you for helping me kind of like learn to become a mom, like just all the mistakes she was able to make and stuff." But for me personally, the reason I don't think the girls were treated like with super special treatment, other than my dad. I think a lot of it had to do with my mom is the oldest girl, and she has 2 older brothers. So she was the one in her family growing up. She was the one. She had to do all the hours. She was under like super close watch, while her older brothers they could do like whatever they wanted whenever they wanted. And so her becoming a mom, and she had 2 sons first. She definitely didn't let that slide like in her household. So I was always like I was always getting beat the most. I had the most strict with curfew, school, friends, everything like that. But I think a lot of it just had to do with my parents and kind of where they are in their family tree. Because my dad is like you, Don. He's only got one younger brother. So for him, he was spoiled too. But my mom was a different story.
Dang, I didn't even take that into consideration, bro.
Yeah.
Because my mom, she's the youngest in the family, and so my sister's the youngest in the family, so she kind of treated it like that way.
Yeah.
But she always compared me to Niko's pops because he's the oldest boy, and she always told me like that's who she wanted me to be like. It's like Uncle Jimmy, and to be strong and to be willing and ready. So I didn't even think about that, bro, like at all, like how that plays a role in it. So
Me and she's told me that like a thousand times before, so that's all I know.
yeah,
Your brother, your uncle, they used to do whatever they wanted.
That's
Sorry.
funny.
My name's not
let's get it.
That's good though. Turned out well.
I guess we'll pivot into another area. John mentioned that Auntie wanted him to be like your dad. How did your dad grow up to you? Like, how did you view him?
Hardworking. For the most part, just scared of my dad. Probably the one person that I knew I was definitely scared of. But yeah, growing up, my pops was always on the road. He drove truck, still drives truck. So there was times he'd be gone weeks at a time, days. I want to say months, but maybe that's just what it felt like. Sometimes he would come home while we were in school and have to leave again before we got out. So yeah, at least weeks on the time for years. So I guess the biggest thing I got from my dad growing up was working hard, supporting your family.
I think that's one thing about the older Polynesian generation, or was that like they didn't care if they loved their job or whatnot. Like they just did it because they love their family more. And that's the one thing I respect, especially about your pops, was no matter what it was, he was going to do it. I remember growing up, your house specifically has a lot of my cherished memories. Going over all the time, me, John, coming over, Sal, just seeing, like, just interacting with everybody. What are you laughing at?
I was gonna say, me and you going over, but then Sal already there sleeping.
That is our brother Sal.
Bro, our brother Sal would show up at people's houses. Bro, 2 o'clock in the morning, I hear someone showering, bro. Go into my shower. Hey, who's in there? Hey, bro, you got some clothes? What are you doing, bro? Yeah, we got some clothes. You want to go eat? It was hella funny, though.
I think we all have stories of us coming home at random times and our parents go, hey, Sal's in your room sleeping. What the frick?
It's like right after school.
I'm telling you, bro. I took the bus home, and there was a couple times he beat me home. And how'd you get here? You ain't got a car yet, bro. I'll say long distance though. Sal's probably the fastest in our group.
Oh, for sure, bro.
I think Sal's, when it comes to physically fit, Sal's probably the most out of all of us in a lot of categories.
Yeah.
Like current? Alright, I'll give him current.
I won't say all time.
You guys are crazy, bro. Hell no. Tick up.
I think he's been the fastest.
Like,
Running.
yeah, straight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not quick.
Alright, bro.
Quick and speed, like fast, straight way, or totally different.
He was way better than you.
Now that I think of it.
Like he would have never melted down
Alright.
Just kidding.
You're probably right.
Nah,
Sal would have said, hey, don't play with the fire.
Nah, Sal would have said, I'm going to sleep by that tree over there. Wake me up when you're done.
So I think that's a lot of us that, as far as the older men that we look up to in the Polynesian community, they're hard workers and they love to support. That was a transition to your mom. Your dad's other half. What is, when we ask you about your mom, what comes to mind?
Love. Yeah, I'll say that's the only thing that comes to my mind when it comes to my mom. I'm a big time mama's boy. Yes, sir. I used to take offense to that, honestly.
Really?
Yeah. Just as a kid, insecurities and things like that. You know, the whole idea behind mama's boy. As a kid, for me, it was like you seem weak. You know what I'm saying? Growing up with the dad that I had, that was not something that was welcome. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I feel like my mom loved everybody the same, even though she can be loud, even though she can be a little bit blunt, rash or brash, I guess you know what I'm saying. Yeah, it was the same with everybody. And I said, yeah, my mom taught me what love is.
Honestly, bro, your mom's best, bro. Like, we grew up in multiple homes together. Your mom was always hella cool, always cooking. That's what I always think of with your mom. It's like always cooking, always baking, always directing the children on what to do. Jeez, man.
One of my memories I have of your mom, like John said, is directing. And every time coming over, whenever there's food, it was always helping to prep. And I always remember the potatoes, peeling the potatoes, and like peeling it with your bare hands because I'm like, Essie, do I use your hands? It hurts,
Bro, straight out the pot.
I know, man. Put gloves on, peel it with your hands. I'm like, ah. But man, I know that's one thing anyone who tried your mom's cooking can testify to is how good of a chef she is.
Look at me now. Man. That's why I got chef fingers now. From them damn potatoes.
I'm so trash, bro. I'll try to figure out any way to not do it. Like, these little hands can't handle that, bro.
That was John.
It wasn't just with the potatoes.
You got a question in there. Hurry before they get on me. This is for Niko, bro.
I don't have any memories of us having to do chores as a group.
Drew has a question.
And so many memories of us having to do chores as a group. And just like thinking we're doing the chores in the middle of the chores. Where's John? What's going on?
Where's the supervisor? He's in his office.
I had paperwork to do. I had to talk to the older folks just so they know what's going on, give them updates.
I always got it. Don't worry.
Make sure we get paid.
Don't worry, Grams. The boys are coming over to cut you. I'll be back in a couple of hours.
Other things to do. Appreciate you guys' love, though. You know when like kids are like, oh, can I go play with the cousins? And they're like, oh, you gotta do chores first. See, bro? I appreciate it, bro. Thank you, guys. I would never have been able to play unless you guys came over.
And did your choice?
It's not. I help sometimes. Well, not all the time.
Sometimes it's crazy at your own house.
Oh, I had so many chores though.
Hey, man. You do have a point there. Jared was out for a minute. I know that nigga wasn't.
Bro, he would make me do his laundry, bro. I'm dead serious. One time I got hella pissed. Left his Jared, our older cousin, bro, hella clean. You know, he likes his stuff tidy. I was hella pissed. He wanted me to wash his clothes and all that stuff, so I washed his clothes and I left it in there overnight. So there mildew on it. Bro, he got so pissed. I forget, once I knew it was like, oh, it was stinky, I put it in the dryer and gave it back. He was like, what the fuck is this?
You didn't even rewatch it?
No, yeah, bro, he made me rewatch it. It smells like fucking mildew. Because it is mildew.
John has a mentality, if you do it bad enough, they won't ask you to do it.
I didn't know that worked.
Oh, this is the creator of that.
Bro, you know what's funny about that? I be doing that with my in-laws.
Yeah, they asked it.
Nah, man, it's hella funny though. Well, no, so my mother-in-law, she could cook, bro. Like, she can cook. So it's funny, like when I want to eat something, or like, for example, like a mango. I want a mango and I want it cut and I want it in squares and all that. So Liz's like, go cut your mango. I was like, all right. So I'll go grab the mango and I'll go grab a fork. And I know my mother-in-law's there. So I'm just sitting there. She's like, hey, give me that. Bro, she would slice it up, bro. It's like professional cut and all that. I was like, yeah, hell yeah.
You couldn't just ask her like you just...
No, bro, it's not as fun.
John's there with the fork like this.
I know.
Saying, oh man, I want to do this.
Just slapping the mango.
Funny.
Nah, that's good.
Why they hate me?
To get back on track. Oh, we're good. But with those lessons that you learned from mom and dad, how have you applied that in your own life, or how have you kind of elevated to make it your own? Because I feel like with my dad, like he said, he always, that conversation that I talked about was, he said, hey, you see how hard I'm working? I don't want you to work that hard. That was kind of my dad's mentality. He wanted me to do something I love. So how have you taken the hard work and the love, how have you elevated to your own and applied it in your own life?
I don't know. I think it's translated for me into just life in general, whether it's meeting new people, taking on new ventures, being at new jobs, things like that. Every relationship that we happen to create, whether it's just with a passerby or with those who are close with us, it's going to take work. I kind of feel like that's what you were talking about in your episode when you were talking about there's no deal breakers. And I kind of view that for people in a sense, just in general, for myself, kind of, there really aren't any bad people. I know there are some twisted people, some people who are really going through things out there, but every relationship, even with ourselves, it requires work. And it definitely requires a lot of love. And so whether it's the work I'm doing, I try to work hard, put love into it. It's relationships, interactions with people. I've put in work, and I still put in work with myself to try hard and love these people, love whoever you come across, because you don't know what they're going through. They could hit you the wrong way, but it could be because their day's a whole lot more messed up than we could even imagine. And so, just in a general sense, I think that's where, I guess in a people sense, that's where their hard work from my dad and the love from my mom really comes into play. I've gotten caught up like trying to force things, but I feel like it's only because I've not developed certain qualities or certain strengths within myself. And that's why I feel like I have to like people say, people pleasers. You know what I'm saying? You don't gotta smile so much, or you don't gotta do this. You can. You just have to do it intentionally with a heart full of love, not, oh, I hope they like me. I hope this. Cut all that out, man. Love. The way you love. You're gonna mess up. That's just how it goes.
I love that.
That kind of made me think of something. When you're talking about like loving individuals and trying to see their perspective, and you're saying like, shoot, you just never know what they're going through today. You know what I mean? I've always looked up to you for being level-headed, always, my whole life. I've always been proud to call you my brother and to see that example. And I've always strived to try my best to be a little bit more level-headed, like you. For yourself, do you feel like you were born with that? Like, is that a natural personality you have, or do you think you developed that over time? Because at least for me, I felt like you were born with it, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like, since birth to now, I was like, this dude is level-headed all the time, always trying to look at all the good in people. I'm like, total opposite. Like, nope.
You trying to get up, bro.
So I don't know. Like, I've always been curious about that. So what do you think?
I acknowledge your perception of me when it comes to that, but I too, for as much as you view me as a level-headed person, feel like I have definitely not been level-headed at various times in my life. think a lot of the time that we spent together as a kid, I mean, we were both learning, still learning, but as kids, we were learning. And whenever crazy situations would happen, which we've been through some, um, I guess part of that's part of the level-headedness that you might see is could be due to like me thinking or applying the same thought process like as like at home with my siblings, things like that, and my parents and them getting on me about different things. And like you have not only people watching, people that are creating like you as an example for themselves, um, but you have yourself to think about as well. A lot of times I felt like you were where you might have thought you were going astray as far as like losing control of emotions, things like that. For me, I would look at you like he's kind of got a point. You know what I'm saying? Like the times where it would go off the rails. Like I could see that too. Now, did I ever make it me? Not always. You know what I'm saying? But just part of, I guess, just knowing that I don't know everything, knowing that there's more understanding to be had in every situation. It's definitely not always panned out like good or the way that I want it to when I am feeling like I'm being level-headed in situations. But that's just the way things go too. And it's not like, okay, well now I got to change myself. I got to be this and that. No, stay true to me. What's for me will come to me. I can't sit there and force and, oh no, I'm a good person. I'm level-headed. Shouldn't be happening. Nah, that's not how the world works, buddy.
Yeah.
I think that's a level of maturity that most people don't reach until their later years. And for the time that I've known you, man, you've had that at a very young age. So I was lucky enough to be around that. And I just want to thank you, man. Like, you've always been that for the crew. You've been the level-headed example to us. Like you're working out conflicts like a mature adult male should in high school. I don't know. We laugh about this story, but the story about the kids that came from Granger to fight. We won't get into no details, but they came over and y'all really had a conversation and dropped it. Yeah. You don't see that with high schoolers. you don't. Yeah. That is the one example I have from high school that happened, where two men talked and they left it at that. Yeah. High school, it's usually through that we're fighting. Yeah. I don't care if it logically doesn't make sense. I'm still doing it. Yes. But yeah, man, that's one thing I've always admired about you growing up.
That's crazy that you say that, because I mean you guys see me around the siblings, and I know when I was younger I was pretty. We'll just say I was pretty mean to them at times. You know what I'm saying? Pretty big a-hole, older brother type stuff. And for you, Donovan, man, you could attribute the qualities I'm talking about to you being the youngest or seeing your siblings and things like that growing up. But man, just your ability to deal with people, for me, has been an example to me. From when we were young, just any kids, you could just start talking to them. When for me, it's like, oh, if this kid irritates me, you're going to annoy me, dude. I'm going to get mad at you. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate
it. So I haven't known you. I've only known you for a couple months, Niko. But one thing I've really come to admire about you, especially like listening to your stories tonight, is like how self-aware you are. So is there someone like in your life that has helped you kind of become that self-aware, or is that something that you just like developed through your experiences?
I'll say a little bit of both. The one person that comes to mind is my wife. I'm married to Rochelle Davidson. Most people know her by Rista. Most of her life she's gone by Rista Raktu. But since being, well, I'll say even from the earliest moments when we started dating, things were just different. She she wouldn't always address maybe things that were a little bit off to her about me, um, or she wouldn't always criticize me and things like that. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to things that are off, from her perspective and from mine, because as we all know, we're all our hardest critics. And even early on, she was somebody that I confided in easily. Um, but seeing some of the things or some of the ways that I am and how they affect or have affected her over time, through the talks that we've had, and even the talks that we haven't had, talks I've had with myself. It has caused me to take several steps back, you know what I'm saying, and look at myself. What am I really doing? Um, Even the parts of me that have good intentions, sometimes they don't come off the right way. Um, just being at peace with that, and I guess at peace with myself, not beating myself up like, damn, I should have done it that way. Man, I could have been a better person here or there. It's just kind of, you got to do that now. You can't keep looking at the past or keep planning for the future. You got to make those steps now. My son coming into our lives is similar, but yeah, I'll say as far as people, she's definitely somebody who's helped me mature in that way. That's probably most recently throughout life. It's just been the boys. I've told these guys before, we never really had like, we've had, Don has older siblings, Sal, me, I have an older sister. Dumar has older siblings, and so does Beach. But I really believe in my heart, man, we did not have no big homies like that growing up. As far as learning the ropes, or getting in trouble, getting out of trouble, being kids, growing up into young men, man, we were learning from each other. The ups and downs that we've been through in our lives, most of them as a crew, like we know about a good amount of them. I won't say majority, I'll say a good amount of them. And the learning experiences I had growing up also just, well, if I would just try my best, put myself in those situations. Of course, it's all hypothetical, but at least like could find like some kind of mental, spiritual grounding and like being at peace with what's going on around me and what I could potentially be in as far as like situations or whatever like that. Situations that my brothers have gone.
I like that you talked about the boys, because one of the questions came in about that, to ask you about one, what do the boys mean to you, and then the second one is for me. I've been really like studying and like really like diving into men's mental health and things like that. Um, One of the studies is 60% of men attempt suicide. 1 out of 5 struggle with depression, and they said a big part of men working through their stuff is having a community, having a brotherhood. So one, what do the boys mean to you? And it might go into the second one of two, what are the importance to you to have a brotherhood around you? How has that helped you?
Mm. Word that comes to mind is solidarity. Uh, One, because I feel like all my boys, all my brothers are solid. And I mean that on a friendship level, as young men and men level, for of us who are fathers. I feel like watching those of us who are fathers, around our kids, interact with our kids, solid. You know what I'm saying? So that's what the boys mean to me. I'll say this: for the time in my life where we were all out doing our own things. Some were on our missions, some were in college, some had just moved out of state, and there was me. Went to Weaver State for a little bit, but that was after everybody had already initially left. When everything was going kind of crazy in my life, trying to find myself, the boys were gone, you know what I'm saying? Feeling like I was a little bit alone in some ways. I'll say this, Terrence is definitely, for me, the pinnacle of solidarity for me in my life. I was a pretty mean older brother to him. But man, he was just always around. You know what I'm saying? Through the good and the bad, and he's played a big part in why I chose that word. Everybody was gone, and he kind of was always there, just kind of keeping me on track. You know? And then anytime, once everybody came back, anytime that we got together, whether it be with all of us or just one or two of us, it just felt like it kind of back to center. And that kind of leads into your second question. The importance of the boys to me is really that, or the importance of having a brotherhood. It really is that. It's kind of brings you back to center. It's not because when I'm with the boys, I'm just totally accepted and everybody's like, yeah, you're doing great, man. You know, you guys will be the first ones to tell each other, like, nah, I don't think that's right. Yeah, maybe you're getting a little bit off track, or yeah, you probably got heated in that situation. Whatever the case may be, whatever the conversation is, it just brings us, for me, it brings me back to center. That happens in other areas of my life. Of course, like my wife, my son, my siblings, mom and dad, type stuff. Having people who are not blood siblings, essentially, is just like, yeah, it keeps me afloat. It has kept me afloat at times when I feel like I'm drowning.
I love that because I feel the same way. You know, I've always looked at the boys as honestly a safe haven, safe space, my area where any criticism, like I really, really like care for. Everyone else, you know, I care, but then I don't really care. I'm like, yeah, well. But I love that you talked about that because I feel like you're a big part of our crew, bro. Like, I know we don't have any leaders in the crew that we're all leaders, but at least for myself, and I feel like that for the rest of the crew, you've always been our leader. You've always set that example. You've always led us in a way that has blessed us to be able to see a brighter perspective, at least in my opinion. Donovan always makes fun of me saying that I'm trying to fight for the leadership position. Maybe I am. Maybe this is the moment with Mufasa and Scar. I just love you talking about the boys and the brotherhood. And I've just been thinking about that. Like, this is something that I'd love to keep talking about with all the boys. Because there's individuals out there. One of the statistics is 50% of men don't have close individuals to have conversations like this. So honestly, that kind of made me sad. So I was like, dang, if we can provide that for individuals that are watching our podcast and saying like, damn, like via podcast, I feel like I'm part of their crew. I feel like I'm part of a brotherhood. That's something that I'd hope that we can bring to other men out there that are feeling lost, feeling like they don't have anybody. You know what I mean? We've been blessed to have each other.
I think one thing that that I loved about the crew is, like John was touching on, is the criticism. Um, One thing I learned in my career is that, and I forgot the quote directly, but if someone doesn't know how much you care, then they don't care about what you say, something like that. I'll find the word for word quote. But if that's the one thing I loved about the crew. If it was criticism from the crew, I knew that it came from a place of love. And that's the one thing that's important to me. Any criticism coming from you guys, I know it's just the intentions behind it is to make me grow. Um, and I guess anyone could use that. Like if you're trying to criticize someone, and I see that with the church culture is like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. I don't even know your name, or something like that. I don't even know you. You don't know me like that. Who are you to criticize me? But if you build a relationship, a loving one, then the criticism comes from a different place. You just take it different, and that's how I take it from the crew. Anytime you guys, Donovan, you're messing up, hey, you need to get back on your A game. And I know it's not. There's only the only intention behind that is love.
I think the quote you're thinking about is, it doesn't matter how people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
read a book.
Point over here, stand
Martin Luther King once said,
He died for our sins. What you learn about in school? Martin Luther King Jr. What did he do? He died for our sins.
tell us about your pinky.
Well, I got 9.5 fingers. Had surgery when I was in 8th grade. 8th grade? No, it was ninth grade. Yeah, because Bees was in 8th. And so, 2 separate surgeries. One day my hand just swelled up like a glove. I couldn't even close my hand. Like the palm was out like this. Fingers were fat. Like no wrinkles in my hand. Like it was that swollen. It was hell hurting. I was crying before we went to the hospital. Terrence was making fun of me. Rightfully so, because I used to make fun of him a lot. But yeah, we didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. Got there, had a couple surgeries. Well, my hand got opened up the first one, and that didn't fix the problem. And so after maybe like a couple weeks after I had my first surgery, then they went and cut open my pinky. Even after that, they're saying, yeah, we don't really know what happened. Like I didn't break my hand, none like that. I didn't have no allergic reactions. But yeah, they said it could have been a spider bite, and bacteria ate my bone.
Could have been.
Could have been. But you never know. I was playing with a lot of bugs when I was little. Yeah, they didn't know what happened.
I'll tell you what happened, bro. I ain't no doctor or nothing. I could tell you what happened, bro. So we grew up in this complex in San Francisco. So we used to go outside and play and all that. This guy used to have this jar. And I was telling him this. He used to have this jar, hell of flowers everywhere, all that stuff. Bro, he used to capture bees in the jar. And then he'll grab with his hand spiders to put them in there so they can battle.
Damn.
But bro, his whole life, I hate spiders, bro. I hate them. Bro, this guy will grab spiders, put them on his hand, and just chase me, bro. There's no way a doctor can't tell me that that's not no spider. That's not no karma. That's all. Bro, terrified, bro. This guy with no fear.
First one I've seen that everyone's trying to swat a bee with their slippers. This guy comes up and just claps it and kills it just like that.
Bro, for real, bro.
You different for that.
I said, does it hurt? He goes, no, it's a moving track.
Alright. Nah, for real, bro. Our whole life, I was like, damn, this guy's crazy, bro.
Speaking of bees, you remember in Harvey Street? I got stung in my belly button.
Oh yeah, from the wasp nest.
Yeah,
I was
the
in
wasp nest.
Yeah, I was just telling Liz about that story.
We had a wasp nest, so our house is like right here, and literally right on the other side of the fence is a little neighborhood park, and there was a wasp nest in the ground. I walked out there shirtless one day, and they were swarming. So I walked past it, thought I was in the clear. Like one was flying around, swatted away. Another one landed right in my belly button, and it's just sitting there. And I think I had already got stung a couple times from in my helmet. Remember?
Yeah.
Leaving for football practice, got stung, but landed on my belly button, and all I could think of was, I'm gonna use my fat to squish this. I was pretty fat back there. I know you can't tell, right? No, so it's in my belly button. I pitched it. So I'm like, yep, I'm about to kill it. It didn't die. I'm feeling it swirl around, and all of a sudden, my belly button's all swollen.
We touched on this very briefly, but Rochelle, how did that happen? How did she come into your life?
Man, me and my wife, we were friends of friends for the longest time. I had heard her name and like seen pictures of her. And my first time was in like junior high. Yeah, not going into 10th grade. My best friend at the time, her name's Soko Farani. She was really good friends with Rochelle. Her sister, her older sister V, and Rochelle were pretty close. And since then, I had heard of her because I was still friends with Soko. And just hear her name brought up in conversation, things like that. Seen pictures, and of course, even back then, I was like, never talked to her, never seen her out in public. And it was 2013, maybe ending of 2012. It was the beginning of 2013. When I seen her on Instagram. Into the DMs, bro. That's where it happened, man. But yeah. I followed her. She followed back, and then we just started talking. She might tell you a different story, but I'm gonna leave it right there.
How was tell me about the first date.
Oh man. We went to the Sugar House movies. Is that what it was? It was a movie in Sugar House, I think. Yeah.
I don't even remember this.
Oh yeah,
I don't remember this.
I was the one that had a car.
Oh, tell the story, bro.
So this was our first date. Like we had hung out before, but this was like our first actual date. And asked about taking her to the movies. We went to see 47 Ronin. Pretty tight movie in my opinion. But before we went, John and the boys were over, and I'm telling them, "Oh yeah, I'm about to go on a date," and the boys were trying to figure out something to do. And John's bright idea was, "Wouldn't that be funny if we just showed up to your date?" At first, I was laughing because John, of course, say and do anything. And I was like laughing, like, "Yeah, I guess." Yes. Would you be mad at us? Nah, not thinking anything of it. So a couple hours pass. Me and Rochelle pull up to the movies, buy our popcorn, sit down in the movie theaters, and all of a sudden we see 4 big niggas walking into the movie theater. And I'm like, I see it's these guys, and they're all like, look at me. And, these niggas really showing up. But they sat in the front. Thank goodness, man. If they would have sat in the back, it would have been a different kind of day. But they sat in the front. We sat in the back. Yeah, we all just watched the movie. I thought it was cool. Rochelle barely remembers the movie, but she remembers the fact that you guys all came. That's the crew.
Dang.
So Rochelle asked her question. Yeah, I texted her and she was like, talk about that. And I was like, oh, I don't even remember that. She's like, you better do that.
That's funny. She sent you that question. She told me she was trying to think of questions too.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. Then I got really worried. I was like, oh, what's she gonna ask?
Wait a minute.
Why didn't you do the dishes last week?
Question.
How do you know about the dishes, John?
I think a lot of our stories are dumb stories. We all have a lot of ideas, but John's that's a good thing. It's a good thing and a bad thing at times, but just do it. Let's just do it. All right.
Yes, we're going.
Creates good memories. That's for sure.
It sure does. Just the first date.
Mhm.
How have you seen your relationship change to what it is now, and how has it gotten there?
For me, I can definitely say, man, I'm learning every day. You know what I'm saying? As a husband and especially as a father. But the way it's changed for me, I feel like it's the same. It's only like an evolved version. Throughout our relationship and especially our marriage, I felt like a breaking down and rebuilding type. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like, in a sense, like what colleges do to high school players who come into the program. Okay, we're gonna melt all this fat down, build it up pure muscle. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like
Yeah.
technically, and that's kind of how I feel. I am changing currently and have changed because there's always more to learn. I mean, even when during the times when I feel like I've been broken down because I can't wrap my head around a certain obstacle, just a certain going on about how we do things or whatever. Even though I can build back up, I'm like, okay, this is cool. I still understand. There's like a higher level of thinking when it comes to this. When I mean this, just life, anything that happens. We can all look at the past. And, like I said, oh, I could have done that better. It's a good thing. I think it's just a bad thing when you beat yourself up over it. And for Rochelle, I mean, I can't speak completely for her, but dang, her growth personally, just for me, viewing her as a person, tremendous change. And in the same way, it's just kind of like the same beautiful person that I met back in 2013. Just amplified, like evolved. You know what I'm saying?
Like a Pokemon.
Exactly. I'm Charizard. Well, yeah. She's definitely been an anchor when it comes to faith, not just in us, but or in me, but in God. And that's definitely been not a tether, but it keeps me uh, grounded in a way. So thank you for that. I love you. Yeah, man. Just a continuous evolution.
With your like relationship with your wife, how's that kind of like? Because you talked about a lot of growth with you and your wife specifically. How's that helped you kind of prepare to be a father for Niko
Um, in a lot of ways, just taught me patience. In life in general, but I'll say, speaking of our relationship, our marriage, I had timelines, I guess, expectations. Like, we're going to be here at this time, there, this, that. And things haven't always gone according to plan. But I've learned to be okay with that. I got peace with it. Not in the sense where, like, oh, you got to settle for this. Or, nah, I guess you just can't do that. I guess you can't reach that point. It's just, Like, I'm aware of where I'm at. I'm aware of what's going on. As long as I'm making actual progress each and every day, or taking steps each and every day, I gotta be happy with that. No matter how many steps I take in a day or how few steps I take in a day, I have to learn to. I've had to learn to appreciate it, to love it more, love the journey, not just the destination. I feel like we, as a couple, have definitely had put expectations on each other, put expectations on our life. Like, no, I want to be here. We should be here. So when we're not there at times, um, it's caused stress within us, between us and within ourselves. It's kind of beating ourselves up over, man, why aren't things going this way? Why aren't things progressing like they should? There are probably answers to that. I shouldn't say probably, but there are answers to why you don't progress in different ways. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't take action towards, resolving those issues. I think it's just don't beat yourself up over it. You got one life, do the best you can, and be good with it, because you can't just keep chasing all our lives, even in a gospel setting, or what people might deem as like a worthiness setting. In order to love others, you got to be able to love yourself. That comes with allowing yourself grace and allowing the truth to come into play too. Be real. Don't be upset.
Some more right there.
Like, this guy really spitting
I was
wisdom
saying-
Nah, go ahead.
No.
No, I just like how you've said it multiple times, like to not beat yourself up for the expectations that you hold on yourself, or others holding expectations on you. I love that because I do that all the time, no matter what. That's something that I'm working through to get to that, I guess, maturity level point of being able to say, nah, like, in the moment, it's all right. Like, it's not the end of the world kind of a situation. Something that kind of popped in my mind is, but how have you dealt with stress, and how have you come to learn how to deal with it in a positive manner now? Because I feel like for myself, I just never grew up dealing with stress very well, and I'm still in the process of learning how to do it. But how have you done it, and how have you changed that in a point of bringing it into a positive manner to help you?
As a young person, as a young kid, young child, and a young man, it was two routes. I'd either get mad or I'd just shut down and just say screw it. I don't want no part of this. Knowing that it's a lot of things that were stressing me or have stressed me, they're like tangible, valid parts of my life. So in a way, I just running from it. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to shutting down, that's definitely how I used to. Either that or getting mad. And it was never I never had tools or implemented tools to deal with the stress. And like you, I'm still developing better ways to deal with stress. I still drink. For a little bit, I was running to those things to help me deal with my stress. And momentarily, they would help. I wouldn't feel as stressed, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, my mind would go to other places most times. For me, it definitely was taking me other places for a little bit. And not just doing what thought I was doing was, oh, I'm just sitting with the problem. I'm thinking about it. You know what I'm saying? Oh, getting better in this way or that way. Trying to give myself credit or whatever it is. I think it's grown now obviously I've formed a habit in some areas. So as far as dealing with stress now, what's changed is I just allow myself a little more grace. And I mean, I don't mean like, it's okay, have a drink, it's okay, do this. I do that just off of free will, you know what I'm saying? But now I feel like I sit well with my problems a little bit better than I have before. And being able to sit in that fire, that refining fire that trials and things like that bring into our lives, that too is kind of it calls you out. You know what I'm saying? When you sit there and think of it, and instead of pointing the finger at everything else and everyone else, take a look at yourself. What can I better about myself? Not like, oh, how can I be more like this person because they do it so well this way? Nah. How can I do this better my way? Like, put your own style on it. Kind of like ball players playing basketball. Everybody has their own little rhythm, style playing the game. I apply that to life. Do life your way. It's all pretty much done the same way. We all got pretty much the same goals. Put your spin on it though. Where's your style at? Oh, you just square straight up and down. Like, that's how you do things, huh? That's cool if it works for you. But for me, I'm not all right in my past or in my current. You know what I'm saying? So that's okay. How am I dance around this? Or how am I going to dance through this?
John sent me a Instagram post, and a guy was talking about his journey with worthiness, and I love the way he put it. It's never linear, like it's always a wave. There's always going to be ups and downs, and so I think that's exactly what you just said. Like, you got to be okay with being, at least understanding your problems, and be okay with, yeah, I do struggle with this. And my progression is what matters. You mentioned your son. What is his name for the audience?
My son's name is Niko Jason Davidson Jr.
How is it to have a namesake or have your son named after you?
Oh, I didn't want him named after me, I'll be honest.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Shoot, I didn't know that.
I usually call him baby, so that's pretty much what I'm referring to if I ever bring him up. But yeah, when baby was born, not gonna lie, I was not dead set, but I really wanted to name him after my pops.
Yeah.
And not for any other reason than I love my pops.
Yeah.
I know I'll speak for my pops on this one. I know that there are some ways he probably feels that he didn't, because my father was named after his father, so my dad's a Jew. I know there are ways that he feels he didn't carry his father's name so well. And I know, or I can only imagine, the similar feelings our grandfather used to have. Not from being a junior, just carrying the name that he carries. And for me, the biggest reason why I was I was big time against it was I have, in my opinion, not carried my name well in my younger years. And I guess he's one of the things that has brought me grace and peace with those things. I don't subject him to, no, I don't want you to be like me. I don't want you, none of that. I just want you to be the best you. I'm me, and you'll see me in all my flawed beauty. You know what I'm saying? You'll see all that. My son will see all that. But in every way, whatever way he chooses to go, however many different directions in life, just be the best you. Yeah. I mean, going back to Drew's question, it's just that patience and grace that has allowed me to kind of pour that onto him and not make him feel like he has to be anywhere anytime soon.
I said I guess I asked my brother this because he's also named after my dad. But I feel like, and I don't know for sure, but there has to be a pressure of being named after someone that is pretty much your hero. Like, I feel like there's a lot of people named after, like my dad's named after a baseball player, but there can't be nothing like being named after your dad, especially if your dad plays a pivotal role in your life. But there has to be pressure living up to that name. Is that kind of why you didn't want him to be named after you?
Uh, I guess it never really crossed my mind. But thinking about it now, it kind of makes sense how people could go through that.
Yeah.
For sure. Because I mean, I just think about my pops, and for as crazy as his life's been, I hear Grandpa's life was a little bit crazy, and so I can only imagine what he could have been going through, especially with his pops dying when he was 11, something like that. So, yeah.
No, I see that. And obviously, like, it's funny because my nephew Kobe, his middle name is Donovan. And it's just funny memories because I say, how's your grades? He goes, only 2 Fs. I grab him, hey man, Donovans don't get Fs, kid. We get straight A's. Obviously, I'm joking, but like I can see that, man. Like what your dad's saying, I haven't been the best, or I haven't lived up to my name. That just has to be so much pressure. So I want to ask my brother that. He is Duke Jr.
For me, what I've taken from it is like you're not being content, kind of where you are. You're always striving to be better, to reach your goals, and to do things, but you're not beating yourself up over what you feel are shortcomings. And for me personally, like that's a big part of like the gospel, being able to find that middle ground where we're learning from our mistakes, dreading talking about them or being ashamed of them. So, in relation to the gospel, I guess, how has that kind of come to help shape your life and your decisions and the way you approach
A big thing I would say is everybody can argue over policies, things like that. When it comes to the church, when it comes to the gospel, um, though policies have changed over time, God's word remains the same throughout all time. And as far as we're talking about applying my mentality to the gospel, pretty much. Yeah, I think just that reminder alone. No scripture. Well, there's a scripture that comes to mind, but it's pretty long. There's not really a scripture that comes to mind right off the bat. It really is just that reminder that though the world's perception of love, of the gospel, of God's word has changed and they've been twisted or evolved or whatever you want to call it over time, it stayed the same. And that goes hand in hand with love, with truth, with peace. Those things like that, they remain the same. There's no, we might have our different definitions of those kinds of things, what the gospel means. But at the end of the day, it really is God that decides on this. And he's been the same since day one, from what I've read and heard, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, it's really just, deep inside, I believe we know what's good. Maybe not for everybody, but we know what's good and what's bad for us. That is a truth for me. Those are my truths, the things that I do, good and bad. You just kind of got to come to grips with it. Can't keep faking it. Can't keep stepping around it. You got to keep walking through the doors. As long as you're with God, or at least implementing His word into your life, things will work out somehow, some way.
I like that perspective because like I feel like growing up, I was raised here in Utah, growing up in the church. Um, like sometimes we get so hyper focused as members on like policies or different things when it kind of help like loses like the essence of the gospel. And for me, it's kind of been a lot of what you've been talking about today, is like finding peace within yourself. And for me, that's kind of what the gospel is just like being able to find that peace in Christ. Taking a lot of like your stories that you've been sharing and your perspectives, and put a lot of things in perspective for me. Like with my own relationship with God, things that I gotta be real about rather than just being ashamed. Thank you for that.
One of the questions was, what are some things that you believe within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? And then what are some things that you don't really believe in?
I used to like argue with myself. I can't get with that, things like that. But now, when I do, as I allow myself more grace, as I allow things around me more grace, not to be so critical, not to be so pessimistic, or at times what I think is being realistic. God has taught, lean not on your own understanding. And as much as that used to bring me confusion as a young kid or a young man, like, it just doesn't apply anymore for me. Just because, as far as the confusion, I think that there are a lot of things that I believe in that are parallel with what the church is teaching. I've either given it different names, called it different things, or been too prideful in a way to say like, "Oh yeah, that's what we're saying too." You know what I'm saying? But I'm just over here for a little bit. Was like, "Nah, this is right for me." Something I've heard before is our culture is not God's culture, and it's just kind of a reiteration of you don't got all the answers, right? We can only call as far as we can see, and as human beings, we become nearsighted or whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? As much as we want to fight and say, "Nah, this is gonna happen," or "I'm putting these things in place to make this happen," but we can't ever account for everything that's gonna come along. Things that are gonna break us down in our beliefs and test us in a way. So, like, do you really believe this, or how deep do you believe this? Like I said, just offering myself and everything around me grace, to not be so judgmental. Kind of how I look at that question. As far as belief and non-belief, you believe what you want or not believe what you want. Doesn't mean that's not true for someone else. Doesn't mean that it didn't happen if you don't believe something. You know what I'm saying? Whether it be because it came from a certain person's mouth or from a certain page on social media, whatever.
Yeah. I think one thing that I love about the gospel that I kind of, or once I gained a better understanding, is kind of what you touched on, that everyone has the same goals, right? We all want to live a good life and then end up with Heavenly Father. And I think people become critical when they see someone else's journey differ.
Yes, sir.
So when the journey's not the same, they're so critical of it. Man, like, I feel like everyone's journey is so unique. We all can't get to the end goal the same way, and that's just never how it's going to happen. So that's the one thing I love that you said, especially about we all generally have the same goal, but the way we get there is going to be so different. And I think that's so 100% true with the gospel. Everyone has their own journey, and even though it doesn't look like yours, who are you to criticize?
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories is, I'm not going to quote it perfectly. Okay, don't get us like that.
Nah, bro.
But it is the.
No judgment here, bro.
But it is the.
Your journey.
I think my favorite story is those without sin cast the first stone. Nobody came up to cast a stone because everyone had sin. And in your mind, her sin might look different. But at the same time, like, sin is sin. Like, we're all struggling with something. Chill out. Get off your high horse and just know, like you always touched on this episode, is everyone is struggling with something.
You know what's cool about that story, though? Is Christ could have thrown a stone.
No.
He's the only one. He's like, whoever without sin could cast the first stone. Everyone's like, oh, I did some things last second. But he could have picked up a stone and threw it at her. He could have been like, boom, got you. But he
Leave your
didn't.
stones here for me.
He could do myself. But I think that shows like another characteristic of him as well. Like not just teaching the individuals that were there, but also showing like, bro, like I'm him. But I'm showing you how not to be, even if you're worthy or righteous or whatever your perspective is. I could do it, but I don't want to do it because that's not going to help her in the long run.
There's one person. It's me.
No, for real.
I don't do it. Nobody should do it.
It kind of made me think of like even like what you're talking about and like Donovan building off of it is everyone knows the story of the prodigal son, right? He dips out, leaves the kingdom, comes back. I always feel like I connect more with the prodigal son because like he goes out, he experiences, he does his stuff the way he chooses to do, but then he comes back and realizes like, nah, like my pops was right, like you know. But when he goes back, he says, I'm not gonna come back as basically your son. I'm coming back as a servant. Like, don't put me in no robes or nothing like that. Put me to work. But his father still robed him and all that, fed him. But I feel like the brother that comes is like, what the hell? Like, bro, he dipped out. I've been here. Like, why are you doing all this stuff to him? I feel like sometimes we get confused on those situations where it's like dudes showing up like to church smoking or drinking, or you seen them yesterday drinking and they come to church the next day. They're like, why are you here? Like, bro, this ain't your story. Like, chill out. So I don't know. In my head, I always connect with the prodigal son. I know I'm not perfect, but I know I want to reach perfection in a way.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna stop striving for it. So I don't know. That's kind of where my thoughts went to. Where I'm like, but we're all the prodigal son. So chill out, like you said. Like, the most important thing in the gospel is love. So if you're looking at your brother and saying, "What are you doing here, brother?" Like, no, he needs to be here. She needs to be here. Hospital.
I think that story is the perfect example too. Like if you think of Christ as like the Father, he's really the only one that had that in place to teach both of his sons from their own perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
That's like my favorite thing in the story is when he's talking to him about like the principle of the son and how he loves him, and then also his the older sons, his own mistakes. And that's the perfect example of Christ. Our own mistakes, and then help us correct our views of either other people or like of ourselves.
And a pretty real aspect to that story for me, it is that part when the father starts talking to the son. He explains to the older son, like, you have different blessings. You're eligible for different blessings because you stay. For even for any of us who believe, like, I'm on this path, like, why am I not as successful as this person? Why am I not being shown as much love as this guy? Well, that guy's gonna have his own set of blessings, his own set of trials and tribulations. They won't be yours, like Dominic was saying. Like, everybody's struggle is gonna be different, but you will be rewarded as long as you're counting your blessings and not looking at the next brother like, what's up? You'll be rewarded for your time that you spent there, for the work that you put in. It might not come how you want it to go, but it's coming. Stay strong, my brother.
We want to ask this question in every episode, not really enough, but what's one thing that helped you elevate to become the man that you are today?
I want to just say life. I was gonna say love, like Donovan, but the love that I've been taught and the love that I've grown within myself has helped me to elevate my life. I don't feel like I'd be where I am today without struggles or the triumphs that taught me how to love better, whether it be myself or other people or anything in general. Yeah, I'll just say life.
All right, guys, that's a wrap on our third episode of the Elevate Podcast. Woo! Like and subscribe. Follow us at Elevate Eloveate. Peace.